Salting. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to Devy Owner's Manual. This is episode 11, your source of knowledge of Devy strategy and Devy players in the fantasy football landscape. So before we get started, I'll send a special thank you out to Chris Allen at Chris Allen FFWX and Adam Wilde at DH8_Adam. Ooh, he's changed that. I don't know what he changed it to. Real quick. I forgot him, and yeah. Had a little falling out with Tyler there. All right, Chris Allen at Chris Allen FFWX and Adam Wilde at AP Wilde of the Dynasty Owner's Manual, which you can find at Devy Manual, for having us on their podcast network. This week, we're going to have a special guest. Our normal co-host, Andrew's going to join us here in a few minutes, but right now I'm going to introduce our special guest. You may know him from his writings on DLF or as one of the voices of the new Dynasty Command Center. I've known him since he was the host of
Uh-oh. It's lagging out for me.
Or his touchdown time from Travis videos. This man is all over and somebody I can immensely trust when it comes to college football scouting. Travis, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. So actually right there, I think I said something, and I don't know if the audio is going to catch it because your video actually completely froze, and I said, "Uh-oh, I can't hear you," or something like that.
All right.
So I don't know if you want to just
I got you good now.
Yep. Okay, cool. Anyway, yeah, I'm good, man. I'm just glad to join you and talk some Devy, and any chance I get to talk Devy, and I'm always down because I know not every podcast really wants to mention it. Some people are scared of Devy. It's like what is Devy? Even friends of mine who've played for years, developmental leagues. What does that mean? So any chance I get to talk about this stuff, I'm ready to dive in. And I remember, you interacting with, I think probably our first few episodes. I remember chatting with you and Justin years ago now about, I think we probably were introducing Devy leagues and to have, your own podcast now. It's awesome to get to chat with you here.
Yeah, I think it was like your 5th or 6th episode. It was pretty early because you had, that's where I also met John Bosch in the Power Hungry League and all that. And yeah, it was pretty early on. And then I was like, Devy, what the heck is Devy? And I remember getting out of the podcast there, out of the car, and looking it up online, and like, holy smokes, this is amazing. So yeah, I had never heard of such a thing, and I'd played fantasy football since the mid '90s. So that was crazy.
Yeah, man. All
right, so real quick, we're going to dive in. We have some news and notes today. Today was National Signing Day. There was a big one offensively. Jerrion Ealy, he ended up choosing Ole Miss, surprisingly. I kind of was a little out of left field on that one. He is a 5-star running back, the number 3 running back this year, but he's also got that little hint of possibly going to baseball. He's a pretty good outfielder from what I hear, so there's always that kind of lingering in the background that he's going to be drafted really high, a la Kyler Murray. Do you have any thoughts on Jerrion Ealy?
Yeah, I really liked him. I actually, like a lot of people, thought he was going to end up with Clemson, but I would imagine, how good Travis Etienne is right now, and he may not think that, I'm going to show up and be the star, and so he may have actually made the right decision and go into a place where he can contribute right away. Even though Ole Miss is not exactly known for providing the NFL with a lot of top tier talent at the running back position, I think you have to say, look, that's a great opportunity. It just sent their entire receiving corps to the NFL, basically. This could be my offense, and I'm sure that was the pitch. So if he's going to be plugged in there right away, I like that landing spot a lot for his opportunity to instantly prove that he's well worthy of being a household name.
Right. Yeah, his tape from high school is pretty amazing. He's a pretty electric guy. Another kind of a flip on the last minute today. George Pickens flipped to Georgia from Auburn. He's a 5-star, number 4 wide receiver. That will give Georgia the number 4 and number 5 wide receivers in this class. So you got to love that for Jake Fromm and everybody coming up. So that's pretty impressive. SEC, man. Wow. They just keep loading.
It is ridiculous. I mean, I was just talking about it a little bit today, but they had, I think it was around maybe 5:30. I don't know if there's anything I missed, but around maybe 5:30 today, they had 7 of the top 12 recruiting classes for, 7 of the teams, top 12 recruiting classes in the country. I mean, they had like 10 or 11 or something in the top 25. It was just absurd. Like, I mean, the only team that's not way up there is Vanderbilt, at like, I think 56th or something overall, because they're Vanderbilt. And I'm a sad season ticket holder, and then whatever, I'll go and see Georgia kill them and LSU kill them this year. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, even Tennessee ended up getting in the mix there. They end up, like you just said,
Yeah.
There's now 11 of the top 25 are SEC. Tennessee ended up getting a good outside linebacker. Like, I had to look up how he pronounced his name, but it's Henry Toa, I believe is what he said, how they pronounced it. And they got one of the top offensive tackles today, Darnell Wright. So even Tennessee is getting in on the mix. That's crazy, man. So
yeah, man.
Everybody but Vandy, huh?
Yeah, basically. I don't think they had a single 4-star recruit, and that's just kind of how they roll. And I am going to talk about some Vandy players that are actually good right now, who all of them will most definitely be leaving and heading to the pros next year, but they're also probably available in your Devy leagues, so could be later finds, but we'll get to that. Yeah.
Let's dive right into that, because that's what right now the Super Bowl is over, and now it's time to turn our attention to Devy drafts as well as scouting for the rookie draft. Right now, all the podcasts are talking about the rookies, but most of the leagues I'm in have Devy drafts in the next couple weeks here, the Pigs leagues, and I think New Hollywood's got one coming up here pretty quick too. So I want to focus on the Devy draft and players that you should be targeting going into your Devy drafts. I pulled the rankings from DLF, and we're going to spend not much time on the guys that are likely owned. Instead, we'll be focusing on the guys that are not owned and the ones you should be targeting. First up, we'll go through the quarterbacks. I know you had some thoughts on that. So let me see. The big names at quarterback, obviously, are your Trevor Lawrence, Tua, Justin Herbert, Jake Fromm, Justin Fields, JT Daniels. Those guys are most likely taken. Jesse, you had mentioned in the show notes that Justin Fields might not, and that is correct. That was not good. So what are some names beyond those top 6 or 7 there that you're targeting? Because those guys are most likely gone. So
I think a couple of names that immediately come to mind for me that definitely should be way up there on your radar are Brock Purdy, who's a little bit undersized, but had a fantastic season when he was given the reins for Iowa State. Freshman, he had like 66% completion rating. I think he had like his adjusted numbers are exactly what you want to see. Over 10 yards adjusted completion. And really, he didn't throw a bunch of touchdowns, but they're not like an incredibly high volume offense. He only threw the ball 220 times this year, but I really like Brock Purdy. I think he does everything that you want to see a quarterback do incredibly well. And so, he obviously had some pretty good weapons to throw to. And, you got Hakeem Butler specifically, and then having a running back into David Montgomery makes your job a little bit easier. But I think if you are in Superflex leagues especially, he's a name I'm really interested in. And then Adrian Martinez for Nebraska, I think another guy. I mean, basically no one comes into Nebraska and starts as a freshman. Really the first true freshman to come in and just own the starting job. Obviously, he was completing a lot of shorter passes this year. Really loved to find J.D. Spielman in the underneath areas of the field, but really, took his deep shots and found some success there too. So Brock Purdy and Adrian Martinez are almost definitely on the table, and they're guys that I believe do project well for the pros.
Right. I think the next couple of years for Purdy will be really critical, losing Butler and Montgomery. So I think next year we'll really see what he's made of, and I fully expect him to thrive there. I'm sure they'll reload. Adrian Martinez, I saw him a lot because I live in Big Ten country, so I got to see him. He didn't do great things against Michigan State, but he definitely played better. He's just fun to watch. He's definitely got a lot of tools that make you kind of wonder, what else is there. And I hope they surround him with some more talent. Another name that might go under the radar. I mean, these are some young guys. Now, if you're going to look at the guys newer, like you've heard the name Spencer Rattler. He's coming into Oklahoma. He'll sit behind Hurts this year most likely, but after that, he's going to be probably the next big quarterback at Oklahoma. He's if you're going deeper, it's a younger guy that I'm sure is out there because it's his first year able to be drafted in Devy drafts. And another name that I really like, another young guy, is Graham Mertz going into Wisconsin. He's 6'3", 205. He ended up throwing for 5 touchdowns in the All-American game. And
Wow.
he looks like the real deal. And Wisconsin
Yeah.
hasn't had a quarterback for as long as I can remember. So should be interesting to see what he does in that system.
Yes, and another young guy, Bo Nix, I think for Auburn. I really like his opportunity. They always have some solid weapons to throw to, and if they can protect him, I think he's got a great shot at finding some early success there as well. And I really like especially Seth Williams throwing in that direction. He's probably going to have some success. They did lose some players this year in Ryan Davis. And then, of course, I'm blanking. Darius Slayton decided to go as well. But they still have the speedy Anthony Schwartz, who just finds a way to add yards after the catch. And, of course, Seth Williams. So I like the weapons there for Bo Nix to hit the ground running for Auburn.
Right, and a couple other guys. Ian Book from Notre Dame has got all the talent, and he's in the system, kind of a pro-style offense. He had some up and downs this year, obviously. Another name that you'll probably hear, and Andrew loves this guy, Sam Ehlinger from Texas. I don't project him as much of a NFL type. He's got a lot of issues with like his throwing motion and things like that. But I mean, if you're in a Devy draft and you've got a super flex and it gets pretty deep, he's worth a flyer as well. He's put up some video game type numbers at Texas there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I actually like him. I like his ability to run as well and just create, and he's a really fun player to watch, and really commanded that game that against Oklahoma. I mean, that was kind of disappointing. The outcome, well, depends on who you are, I guess, and who you're a fan of. But he really did kind of show out, and I think he may not project to be a starter in the pros per se, but I think he has a home in the NFL somehow, some way.
Yeah, he's definitely throwing to some really quality wide receivers there. That definitely helps quite a bit.
Yeah, that's true.
Whew, man. All right, let's see. We're going to run to running backs. Kind of hoping Andrew pops in here any second. Because I love me some running backs. Eno, I am just stunned at how many people don't talk about him. It drives me nuts, man. Because whenever I'd watch Nikhil this year, I'm like, wow, look at that guy.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, just amazing.
But yeah, we can wait a second if you want to have Andrew pop in.
Yeah, I want to give him a second here. He hasn't said anything to me yet, so I don't want to. I have to get up at 5 in the mornings. I don't like going too late into the night.
Yeah. And how long do you keep the episodes? I can't remember.
What do you mean?
Do you generally like have a set time limit of like how you cut the episodes off at this set time?
Not really. We usually seem to go right on 40 minutes though.
Okay.
Seems to be about how long it goes.
Yeah.
Might be a little shorter this time. We didn't have a lot of news and build up and stuff like that. So, I mean, obviously there'll be a lot more to talk about with running backs and wide receivers. Because every league needs those. It's kind of the quarterbacks are just. Although, gosh, I don't think I play in a single league. It's not super flex anymore. Like, I don't know how anybody does it, to tell you the truth. I love super flex, man. It's almost becoming the norm, it seems like.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, at least in the nerdy crevices in which we dwell.
I do seem to run across the same 30, 40 people in every league, I swear.
Yeah. It's a tight-knit group that just goes bananas.
Oh, it's fun, man. So you graduate the Friday of the draft, right?
Yeah, I probably said that on a couple podcasts now.
Oh, man. I can't move it for you.
I know, right? I don't even care. I'm not going.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so excited. I've got the clearance from the old lady. I don't know what I told her. I said I got to get a place to stay or something because it's gonna be impossible to get a hotel down there, I'm sure. So I might start
you can get the Airbnbs down here.
Yes.
It's a really good setup. So
I want to see if I can find somewhere close to where the draft is and just stay in somebody's extra room or something. I doubt I'll be there for more than just a sleep anyways. I'll be wandering around town all 3 days, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess let's dive in, man.
Okay.
All right, we'll dive into running backs next. This is kind of the meat and potatoes is what I call them. We'll run through some of the top names that are most likely going to be selected. names like DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins. A.J. Dillon might be out there, but the first name that come up on my list that I really, really thought is probably your best shot if these guys are all taken is a guy from Arizona State. Travis, you want to talk about him a little bit?
Yeah, so Benjamin, I mean, he was a guy who was way under the radar because he basically didn't do much of anything at all. His freshman year for Arizona State because he had actually been injured. I can't remember how close it was to the season. It was less than a year away that he had a significant injury. I think it was actually in I don't know if it was the Army game. It was some kind of like high school kind of like all-star game. He actually hurt himself and really wasn't all there for the spring aspect of everything, and so really couldn't feature. And then they really still had, of course, Kalen Ballage in the mix just in 2017. So this year, when he had his chance to feature, he carried the ball 300 times for over 1,600 yards and had over 30 receptions, just shy of 2,000 yards from scrimmage, and 20 touchdowns or so. So really love Benjamin. He's slightly undersized, but he doesn't play like it. He adds yards after the contact, and really his contact balance is just impressive. But what he brings as a receiver, I think, is going to help him to be the perfect modern NFL running back here before we know it.
Right, you got to love a guy that has that type of production and then also catches passes on the side. And all this time while sharing the field with N'Keal Harry, who's thought to be one of the top wide receiver prospects. And, they have an okay quarterback there. But just every time I pop on that game to watch N'Keal, I'd be like, dang, just run, man. He only averaged 5.5 yards a carry, but in that offense was kind of, it was like N'Keal Harry and him, and they would just focus on, guys could like bracket N'Keal, and then they would focus on him. So he definitely didn't have like the greatest avenue of success there, but man, he just looks so good. He never ever took a loss. I really like watching him play. Is there any other names that really popped out here on these guys that, outside of the top 7 or 8?
For sure. I think I can't remember where I saw it here recently, but something out of the past several years or so, basically like 1 out of every 2 5-star player that goes and plays for Alabama is eventually a first-round draft pick. And really, there have been some just near misses, like Derrick Henry and some other players that just were outside of first round. But they almost all go pro. If you're a 5-star, you go play for Alabama. Really good shot at being drafted and being drafted early. So Trey Sanders for Alabama, the freshman running back, I think he has a real opportunity to really make an impact early on. With the departure of Damian Harris, Josh Jacobs that everybody loves this year. They have Najee Harris, they have Brian Robinson. But really, Trey Sanders, I think he'd come in and immediately be at least the second best running back on that roster, if not the best running back on the roster by the time, it gets to college football playoff time anyway. So I think he's a name that if you're going to thrust any freshman of any position into early round consideration, it would be Trey Sanders for me.
Absolutely. All right, my wife's going to walk in, so I'll pause for a second here.
That's fine.
Dude, I love the next name on your list. Man, love it, love it, love it. Come on. What does your wife do?
She's in accounting for Vanderbilt.
Nice.
Yeah. But she was actually at her haircut, so she got home later.
Gotcha. Surprised Andrew's not. I told him just give the kid Benadryl. He'll go to sleep. Come on.
You got to give him nighttime candy. That's what my brother and sister-in-law call melatonin.
I'm waiting on Andrew. Andrew said he had to put his kid down. He's like a half an hour late. So just talking with Travis. They get home okay, or
slow.
You didn't go on the freeway at all, or okay. Yeah, I got she locked her keys in the car today, so I brought her the spare key, and then I was leaving and noticed the tire was flat. So then I ended up trying to change the tire, and this cold, wet, damp parking ramp, and yeah, it was fun. I'm not very good with cars and stuff, so that took me about an hour fighting with that dumb thing. They put these tires now, they suction cup up underneath, and you got to do this weird voodoo thing to get them out from underneath, and it's nuts.
Yeah.
A second. Woman, get out. No.
No, I need Becca an entire brick of cream cheese.
Entire brick of cream cheese. Sounds good.
Sounds delicious.
I thought that was Andy that popped out for a second there.
I'm gonna put cream cheese on mine. Sorry.
Okay.
And I can't make cream cheese.
I'm sorry, man.
It's all good. I'm not in a hurry. It was I just had to. We were trying to figure out when we were going to record the DCC podcast,
Right.
and so we had to kind of just scramble and just find a time when it worked with Ryan because he's super busy, obviously.
Yeah. I like you guys the
other
way you're
podcasts.
rotating. I like the way you're rotating in there and stuff. That's pretty cool. I like it. It's, sometimes you get tired of the same people. That sounds silly.
Yeah.
But
No, I think it totally makes it makes sense. And we've had me and Brian and
Curtis.
Curtis and Ryan and Scott and then TJ. We're gonna have Kyle on soon, probably. Francis, that is.
Right. Yeah.
But just a really good team. Lots of fun.
Okay. I'm gonna get you going, then I'll just mute when I want to get going here. So we're not recording until midnight tonight.
Okay.
All right, man. I absolutely love the next name you have on your list. It's a name that I guarantee most people have not heard of, and they should. That's for sure. A little guy from Oregon State.
Yeah, I think Oregon State, when you say Oregon State and Devy prospect, you don't automatically get giddy because it's not like they have given us a ton of players to get excited about here in the past few years. But what he's been able to do just this past season, really on a really horrible team. I mean, Oregon State is not really ever, just a constantly competitive, amazing team. But the 2-10 bad offense, bad defense mess of an offense. And this guy has, a couple games over 230 yards, 254 yards against Arizona State, who had, Benjamin. I think they both went off that game, actually. But as a true freshman, having 7 games up over 100 yards, and really just dominating on the ground and adding a little bit of value through the air, 25 passes caught by him. It's not crazy numbers, but he's got at least adequate size. And I think he's still growing. So if he adds a little bit more weight and doesn't lose much speed, I think he could have some crazy seasons upcoming. He already had, 1,500 plus yards from scrimmage. I think he could be in for one of those seasons where he gets close to 2,000 yards from scrimmage. And on a bad team, I'm just super impressed by what he was able to do. He looks like he's got a pretty balanced skill set. I wonder about his elite athleticism, if that's there, but really checks most boxes for me.
Right, another guy that I really like this year is freshman. He was a freshman this year also, was Anthony McFarland from Maryland. He got a lot of hype that game when he went to Ohio State. Gosh, what did he have? 290 yards or some crazy thing like that? I was trying to look at it. I mean,
yeah.
His price went through the roof in one game, man.
Yeah, man, it did. What's weird about Maryland is they don't throw the ball to their running backs like at all. And so seeing a guy that's small that has almost no receiving experience is a little bit of a worry for me, but he's just an absolutely electric player that I love to watch play the game. So he's got crazy speed. If he can show that he can have receiving chops as well, he's a name to keep on your radar for sure.
And another freshman who didn't get to play this year is Zamir White from Georgia. He might have fallen off some radar of some people. He was the top rated running back coming into the class last year, the top incoming freshman. Then he tore his ACL. He's 6'1", 220, and he runs like a mad, angry man, but he's extremely quick, and he's one that may, if you didn't get him last year, if he made it through the Devy cracks last year, you might be able to pick him off pretty easy this year if nobody's paying attention. So I would definitely look at that name as well. You have a couple more for us, Travis?
Yeah, I think that's a great name to add into this mix too. But I think Kennedy Brooks. I mean, everyone was high on Trey Sermon for Oklahoma, but he was never really himself this year. At times, not 100% healthy. And Kennedy Brooks put up about 1,000 yards on the ground and averaged almost 9 yards per carry, which is just absolutely absurd to do for a Power 5 school. So I think Kennedy Brooks could be the play that more people should see coming, but I think a lot of people won't. So they'll probably let him drop because they still want to believe in Trey Sermon's impressive freshman season and thinking that he's going to bounce back. But I think it could be a situation where they both have NFL viability, but Kennedy Brooks just ends up being the cheaper option. So that's really intriguing for me. But then also another guy who was incredibly effective against some top competition is none other than Vanderbilt's only best running back in Keyshawn Vaughn. He had, like 1,200 plus yards, almost 8 yards per carry against SEC defenses. And really Vanderbilt, I mean, they were better than a lot of people gave them credit for this year, but they were definitely inconsistent. And obviously they can't get the recruits. We already talked about that. So the offensive line that he's got blocking for him is never going to be just, a top end type situation. So the fact that he came in and had the level of success that he was able to is incredible. And I think he's going to do it one more year. And I think he's going to, even in a deep running back class, I think he could see some draft capital attached to his name next year. But that's probably a much later pick. A lot of people are not going to be excited about a Vanderbilt running back.
Yeah, he's one that you need to be able to get to. Like if you're running out of money toward the end of the auction, you have a couple spots left over. Why not? With a guy like that, it seems to be the situation I'm always in. I always run out of money and kind of have to take a flyer at these guys like this at the end there. So we're gonna dive into wide receivers though. I was kind of surprised. The landscape in wide receivers definitely seems to change more, and guys come on the scene a lot more. Like in this Devy rankings on DLF, they had Laviska Shenault as number 1 and Rondale Moore at 3. And I went through 4 different leagues, and they were unowned in all 4 leagues. I was like, wow, they really came out of nowhere last year. So I know one of those guys is really close to home for you. Can you tell us a little more about Rondale? I know you've done quite a bit of research on him.
Yeah, so Rondale Moore is every bit as exciting as we believe he is. I mean, he just won the Paul Hornung Award this past year for being what they claim to be, the most versatile player in college football. Recent recipients of that award include Christian McCaffrey, Odell Beckham Jr., Jabril Peppers, and the past 5 winners of that award went on to be first-round NFL draft selections. And I think in today's NFL, I think you look at his skill set and his ability to create separation and make people miss. I don't really care that he's a little bit undersized like I would maybe 5 years ago. He's 5'9", probably 180 or so, but he does it all. And he rushes the ball. He gets open as a true freshman. If you're catching 114 balls for over 1,200 yards and like 12 scores as a true freshman, that's insane. So I can't wait to see what he does in his follow-up efforts this year. He'll have a little bit more company with some higher recruits coming in, a couple 4-star wide receivers, top 300 overall players joining him. But I think he's still going to see a ridiculous market share that you want to see. And I think he's going to test out as a freak athlete. He was squatting like 600 pounds before he even got to play a down in college football. So I think he's every bit of what we think he is and more for Rondale Moore.
Yeah, he's absolutely amazing. I actually reached out to him this week to see if I could get him on the show for a few minutes, and I haven't done that before, so apparently I got to work on that. But either that or he's like, who is this freak? He's just, he's so much fun to watch. You kind of with the recruiting, what they've got coming in. I know you're a Boilermaker fan. I like I like that. I mean, I like it. I want to see him get back to the way their offense used to be when Drew Brees was at the helm, and they used to just air it out. And they used to be a lot. It used to be a lot of fun and a very dangerous team every year. And they were a lot more dangerous this year than they have been in the past. So.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it's fun to see. And then like I glazed over the number one name. Laviska Shenault is a guy I absolutely love. I think Andy and I did a mock a couple of episodes ago, and I took him. I think he went second or third amongst us, and he's a guy that you watch on tape and you watch him in the game. He plays out in the Pac-12. Colorado? Yeah, Pac-12. Yeah. So I thought. Anyways, so he doesn't see the greatest defenses in the world, but man, he looks like a man playing amongst the boys. The way he creates separation, he's so quick. He ended up catching 86 for 1,000 this year, only 6 touchdowns, but Colorado is not as good as they used to be either. And I think that says he played 9 games, but I swear he missed like most of several games. I think that was mostly in like 6 or 7 games. And he is so much fun to watch. The guy I'm really, really high on. And I think if I had a Devy draft and I had the first pick, amongst he's probably one of them that I would consider in a depleted Devy draft,
Yeah, he's going to go way high in every league this year. So he's going to be virtually unattainable unless you have like a top 2-3 pick. So, maybe you're starting up and doing a Devy, he might not be that high, but even so, he might be just because of
that top 10, maybe. Yeah, he's amazing. A couple other guys in the top 10, Jerry Jeudy most likely owns, CD Lamb, Brian Edwards, Justin Ross. He may be out there. He kind of sort of burst onto the scene this year. But if he was highly recruited last year, it's possible he's out there. And another name that you liked here, a guy from Minnesota, Tyler Johnson.
Tyler Johnson, I think a lot of people were just unsure. It's just Minnesota wide receivers. I mean, you had Eric Decker, but there hasn't been a bunch of recent players come out of there. So I think that there were just some people hesitant to just believe, that dominator rating, we should just apply that to, that's going to pan out. I really liked him. If he would have come out this year, he would have been a first-round rookie pick for me in your normal dynasty leagues. And so he might actually be available somewhere, but he's going to obviously go super early as well. Justin Ross, though, I think, you have players like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Every year, the 5-star wide receivers that are always taken by somebody in your Devy league. But the 4 stars, there's so much disagreement. And Justin Ross wasn't the absolute top of recruiting rankings. He was highly recruited. It's wide receiver university, but I think he may be available in a lot of spots still. And he did just have exactly 1,000 yards as a true freshman. So that's you love to see that. And he is actually looking potentially like he's better than his teammate T. Higgins. And if that's the case, then there might be some real NFL draft stock in that kid's future. So I'm excited about Justin Ross, and I'm drafting him early everywhere. I think even in a startup, he's got to be a top 15 player for a lot of people right now.
Right. Just his hands and his sideline presence is unreal. Like, I wanted to go back real quick on Tyler Johnson. Most people don't realize that Minnesota, like you said, is not known for hotbed, but they do have PJ Fleck, who was the coach there when Corey Davis was at Western Michigan. Definitely knows how to highlight a wide receiver. So I actually see a lot of similarity in their games even. But I was really shocked he didn't come out this year. I didn't see any reason why he would go back to Minnesota. That was kind of an odd one, I thought. But
yeah.
Is there a couple other names that caught your eye on this list? I saw one guy from Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and I am, and I'll just put it out there. I've had season tickets for Vanderbilt before, and I'm having them again this year. And so I will mention guys from Vanderbilt from time to time that deserve it. And there's not very often people that do deserve it. But I think Elijah Lipscomb, he hit the thresholds that you want to see for his breakout season in 2017 as a sophomore. He had a really good season this year, had almost 90 catches, almost 1,000 yards, almost 10 touchdowns. Really, really impressive season overall on just a mediocre offense. But they actually have a really solid core with Keyshawn Vaughn, Elijah Lipscomb, and Jared Pinkney. I think all of them seriously will probably be drafted inside the 5th round next year. So I think Elijah Lipscomb is going to be a name that he probably does have over 1,000 yards this year. He probably does have over 10 touchdowns this year. And he's going to be a late riser for some people. but I've liked him for a few years now because he's the one player that every time they have a really tough team come in, he's the one player still creating separation against the Alabamas, against the Georgias. And so he can win on his own, even though he's not a huge guy. He can really do it and separate. I think he's a better athlete than his recruiting profile may have showed. But I know a lot of people might not have a lot of comments on Kalijah Lipscomb or even know who that is, but he's another one of those last second picks, last pick in your draft type players that no one's going to take. But Tylan Wallace for Oklahoma State, I think, is going to continue to rise. And J.D. Spielman for Nebraska, I think they're going to both continue to rise and really fill out the 2020 NFL draft class for wide receivers. We think 2019 is great, but I think 2020 is going to be great if a bunch of these guys do come out. And Tylan Wallace was actually another highly recruited guy, but immediately forgotten after he kind of had a next to nothing type season for his freshman year. But with James Washington leaving, last year, somebody had to take over those targets. And that's what Tylan Wallace did for Oklahoma State. And I think he's going to continue doing it again. He had almost 1,500 yards. And so that kind of season cannot be ignored in college. Obviously, they're a high flying offense, but I like to see him, I'd like to see him, do that again, maybe even a better year. J.D. Spielman with no Stanley Morgan Jr. for Nebraska and having Adrian Martinez, who we mentioned earlier, throwing him the ball. He should be the primary guy. He should easily have over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, even though he is kind of smaller, 5'9", 180, 190 type guy. I think he plays with some explosion and can win deep, can win short, and make you miss. I love his game. So those are guys that I'm definitely targeting in all of my Devy drafts.
Right. I thought you mentioned Tyler Vaughns before. Are you still as high on him as you were? I saw you did a film study of him a little while back. And
yeah, I think he's amazing at a few things. And I think he's almost 22. So he'll be, I guess, when he enters the NFL, he'll be 23. And so he should have things figured out by now. I think his final season is going to be incredibly important. I'm not as high as I was, but his sideline game is next to almost no one in college football. So if he can figure out the stuff over the middle and diversify his route tree a little bit, I'm really going to like him as well. But I'm not going out of my way to draft him, and he's actually drafted in most of my leagues anyway.
Right. A couple names that I noticed that are incoming freshmen you want to keep your eye on. One is Jaden Hasselwood going to Oklahoma. He's a monster coming out of 6'2", 196. And I haven't seen a lot of his high school tape, but what I've read about him and stuff is just that he's like the next big thing. Like he's really going to light it up there in Oklahoma. And a couple names, incoming guys that really caught my eye. We talked about George Pickens earlier, and gosh, there's one more. We're on a blank here.
Theo Weeks for Oklahoma.
Yeah, Theo Weeks for Oklahoma as well. Wow, yeah. Oklahoma, man. That's two big old guys on the outside. And then Frank Ladson at Clemson as well. He's a name to keep your eye on, especially Clemson just keeps turning them out, man. So you gotta love what they're doing down there. So there's a couple names that are, fresh on their radar. You want to keep your eye on those in the draft coming up here soon.
Oh, yeah.
Then I guess we'll go into tight ends. Obviously, Albert O coming back is the biggest name available, and I would assume he's probably gone in every one of your leagues. So is there any other same as Hunter Bryant, sorry. He's most likely gone as well. So beyond that, it gets pretty thin pretty quick as far as guys that are most likely drafted. We lost a lot of them this year. I think guys that were Devy prospects, I think a lot of them entered the NFL this year. So there's some names that, other than Jared Pinkney, that really caught your eye for tight ends.
Yeah, I mean, the tight ends really were just vultured by the NFL draft this year for college football. There were a bunch of good guys that put up some crazy, stupid stats this last year. So, the pickings are slim a little bit for tight end now. But Colby Parkinson, Stanford, all they do is send tight ends to the NFL. And he had a pretty good sophomore breakout with 29. It doesn't. And I need to frame this. If you don't pay attention to tight end production for college, it's normally pretty gross. It's like embarrassingly bad for the most part. And a lot of these guys pan out anyway. But 29 catches for 485 yards and 7 scores. That's an incredible sophomore season for a tight end. And really, that's an incredible senior season for a tight end in most offenses. And as much as Stanford doesn't throw the ball a ton, Colby Parkinson at 6'7", I think he brings enough side that a lot of players might not. Brevin Jordan for Miami is another guy I'm super excited about. He has, kind of another small sample size of production, but I think he's a plus athlete. And Grant Calcaterra, I think some people drafted him just thinking he was going to plug in and be the next Mark Andrews for Oklahoma, and he might be that this year. I think with Marquise Hollywood Brown being gone, the target distribution might not automatically go to those incoming freshmen studs to be, and Calcaterra could have a good season this year alongside CeeDee Lamb. Those would be my three guys outside of, obviously, like you already said, Jared Pinkney for Vanderbilt.
Right.
Was incredible, and I think he's going to be the name that rises to the top of tight end boards that no one is paying attention to right now. He had almost 800 receiving yards as a tight end last year, and I think he's going to repeat and do the same, if not more.
Right. I got to give a quick shout out to Jeremy Ruckert too. He's isn't he like Sal's nephew or something like that? I heard Sal Lito he's been hyping up this kid for a while, and he was highly recruited, 6'6", 240 out of Ohio State. Ohio State's typically had the best tight ends in history, but he's a pretty interesting prospect, and I just got to give him a shout out because Sal's been talking about him for a while. So.
Oh yeah, and I mean Ohio State's scheme is just weird anyway. The way that they deploy the tight ends, they're almost like a dummy, like just kind of like to create space, even when they do run routes. So anytime somebody's hyping up an Ohio State tight end, it's like that's great, but he's going to block a lot and be a decoy for 3 seasons and then get drafted anyway. But but it's just it's hard to predict where they're gonna be.
Maybe Ryan Day will figure it out. And then the coaching change. You never know. They're such a hard team to figure out. Like, how do you lose in 1 week and then go score 65 against Michigan?
I have no idea.
It's so hard to figure out, man.
Oh yeah.
All right, so that's just some of the Devy prospects that we're looking at. Sorry we didn't have Andrew tonight. Andrew, apparently he had some family obligations and stuff, so he'll be on the next Devy Owner's Manual, but I'll give him a quick shout out. You can find him on Twitter at DHHMandrew. He writes for the Score Crow, DHH, and we also co-host the Devy Happy Hour, which will be out next week. We'll be covering more on the draft. But Travis, tell everybody where they can find you and if you got time, of all the things you do.
Yeah, so you can FF_Travis M. I just started doing a lot of things with Command Center. That is with Curtis Patrick and Ryan McDowell. I am the host of the new Dynasty Command Center podcast. Definitely check that out. Got our rookie guides out already with them. I actually have some new announcements to make here soon, but won't be able to do that on this podcast. But excited to be contributing in a few different exciting places, and just really thankful for the opportunities that have been presenting themselves to me here lately. But thank you again for having me on, Dwight. Always good just chatting with you and just nerding out with this Devy stuff.
Thank you so much, man. And you can find me on Twitter at FFPeoplesChamp. You can find this podcast at Devy Owner's Manual, or email us at devyownersmanual@gmail.com, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thank you. Well, thanks, man.
Hey, man.
Oh,
It's fun times.